In 1997, the world stopped for a moment when news broke of something that many believed was impossible. A young woman named Sarah Johnson gave birth to 8 babies, 8 fragile little lives all at once. They were small, impossibly tiny, each one fighting for breath inside incubators lined up side by side. Doctors shook their heads, unsure if even one of them would make it through the night. And yet, against all odds, every single one of those babies lived. The world called them miracles, but to Sarah, they were simply her children. The story began in a quiet neighborhood in Des Moines, Iowa, where Sarah and her husband, Michael, were an ordinary couple with extraordinary dreams of having a family. For years, they struggled with infertility, enduring countless heartbreaks, prayers, and nights of whispered hope. When Sarah finally conceived after fertility treatments, the couple thought they might be blessed with twins, maybe triplets at most. But as the months went on, ultrasounds revealed the unthinkable. There were 8 little heartbeats. 8 souls growing inside her. The pregnancy was risky from the start. Doctors warned Sarah and Michael of the challenges ahead. It will be a miracle if even half survive, they were told. Every day was a battle, every step forward shadowed by fear. Yet Sarah refused to give in to despair. She carried her children with courage, enduring pain, exhaustion, and uncertainty, clinging to the belief that each heartbeat inside her was meant to be. On a chilly November morning in 1997, the world watched as Sarah was wheeled into surgery. The delivery room was filled with more than 40 doctors and nurses, each one prepared for a fight. And then, one by one, they came. 8 tiny miracles, 4 boys and 4 girls. They were small enough to fit in the palm of a hand, their cries barely audible. But they were alive. The headlines blared, first surviving set of octuplets born. Overnight, the Johnson family became a global sensation. Cameras camped outside their house. Reporters begged for interviews. Donations poured in from strangers who were moved by their story. But with all the joy came immense pressure. Raising one baby was already a challenge, imagine 8. The early years were the hardest. Sarah often went days with barely an hour of sleep. Diapers stacked up in mountains. Bottles needed to be prepared every 2 hours, sometimes 10 at once. Michael worked long shifts, but even with his income, the bills piled high. There were moments when Sarah broke down, crying quietly in the kitchen, wondering if she was strong enough for the task. Yet, amid the chaos, there were moments of indescribable beauty. The first time one of the babies smiled. Their first steps, taken together like a little army of toddlers wobbling across the living room. Their laughter filled the house, echoing louder than the doubts and the struggles. Sarah used to say, they may have been born tiny, but their spirits are bigger than life. Still, life wasn't without heartbreak. When the children entered school, the family faced new challenges. The kids were often teased for being the octuplets. Teachers struggled to remember their names. And there was always the pressure of comparison, who was excelling, who was struggling, who felt lost in the shuffle. Sarah and Michael did their best to nurture each child individually, reminding them that they were more than part of a number. Each one had their own dreams, their own identity, their own worth. As the years rolled on, the octuplets became symbols of resilience, not just for their parents but for everyone who followed their journey. By the time they turned 10, people around the world had watched them grow. The media would occasionally check in, running stories like the Miracle 8 at 10 years old. But inside the Johnson household, life was no fairy tale. There were moments of rebellion, moments of financial strain, and moments when Sarah and Michael's marriage itself was tested. Raising 8 teenagers under one roof was like balancing a storm full of noise, passion, and endless demands. And yet, the love never faltered. The children leaned on each other. When one struggled in school, the others stepped in to help. When one was bullied, the others stood as protectors. They grew not just as siblings but as a team, bonded by something deeper than shared DNA. Now, it has been 25 years since that extraordinary day in 1997. The babies who once fit in the palm of a hand are now adults carving their own paths in the world. One of the brothers, David, became a nurse, inspired by the doctors and nurses who once saved his life. Another, Marcus, joined the military, determined to give back to the country that rallied around his family when they were born. One of the sisters, Angela, pursued law, standing up for families who couldn't stand up for themselves. Her twin sister, Grace, became a teacher, pouring her love into classrooms filled with children who reminded her of her own chaotic childhood home. The others pursued dreams in art, technology, and entrepreneurship. Each child carried with them the strength of the struggle they had overcome as a unit, but also the individuality their parents fought so hard to protect. Looking back, Sarah often reflects on those early warnings from doctors. She remembers the words, "It will be a miracle if even half survive." And now, 25 years later, all 8 are alive, thriving, and building lives of their own. She sits at the family table, watching them laugh and argue like they always did, and she whispers, "You were never meant to just survive. You were meant to shine." The story of Sarah, Michael, and their 8 children is not just about survival. It's about faith, love, and the relentless human spirit. It's about the power of family and the belief that even the most impossible odds can be overcome with hope. For anyone watching their journey, the message is clear: life will bring challenges so overwhelming that survival seems impossible. But if 8 tiny babies can fight for their first breath and grow into thriving adults, then there is no obstacle too great for the human heart to endure. So, as the Johnson Octuplets step into their futures, they carry not only their own dreams but also the legacy of resilience they were born into. A legacy that reminds us all miracles do happen, and sometimes, they happen 8 at a time.